The moon had low gravity, so it was common to utilize the spring when doing any weight training. A rod and coil made for that purpose had been sold online and was a rather popular product. However, it was questionable how many who bought it actually used it. After all, the fitness company who made a fortune selling sets of rods and coils had managed to sell over 3 million sets, including similar items. But no matter how you looked at it, any single set would have been more than sufficient. In fact, the population of the moon was about 700,000 people, although tourists would send that number up to 1 million. There were many people out there who would buy it and not use it, knowing that a new model was on the way. Even if the equipment was used properly, there was the matter of using it for more difficult applications, and then the user manual would neglect to note this. The words of my stubborn, old-fashioned father would repeat in my head while I did weight training. With weights on my arms, shoulders, back, and abs, I would do balance training involving headstands and light somersaults, which would go on for no more than 20 minutes. Since I wasn't aiming to be an athlete, any training beyond that wasn't really necessary. If nothing else, the people who came from my town, who came from the town my folks were from, the kind who could never tell a lie, would all say in unison to take care of the body, for it will always be useful. With the height of net prosperity, and lower gravity, and the near unlimited supply of electrical power on the moon, physical labor was categorized as being the lowest of the low in terms of recognition. There weren't any people who made it big with physical labor. At best, there was always the consideration of those who worked in show business, but even then the ones who got paid the big money weren't the actors who toiled away in their craft, but the people who managed them. So, very much like real life. However, after leaving home and taking the time to observe things outside of the boundaries of the rules of society, I had come to understand that there was a lot of truth in those words. Even after evading the police sent to bring me back home, I realized that there was some useful advice to be had, as expected of those seasoned veterans who escaped from the jaws of guerrilla fighters, secret police, and military juntas. I wiped the sweat off with a towel and put on my clothes, the same clothes Lisa and Hagana were complaining about before. After 2 washes, I probably finally got rid of the smell, but I had a feeling that I had washed away something like an important mark of readiness that had been stained into the clothing in the last 3 months. The one thing I had become more aware of after leaving home was that people were relaxed by the smell of detergent. The word cleanliness had a rather weak image. Then again, this wasn't half bad. I stretched my back and tossed my backpack over my shoulder. Since today was Sunday and the train houses were closed, it was an important day for me as I could go out and just walk around. It also appeared that the culprit from the theft was arrested, so the odds of being mistakenly arrested and taken home had diminished. Not entirely sure why they had all this weird spacing here, but yeah. It was just as Lisa suspected. The culprit was a young man who had also run away from home, leaving home without any means, turning to a life of crime and causing trouble for others. This guy was clearly the typical idiot. It's possible that he wasn't from Earth and was born and raised on the moon. As someone born and raised on the moon myself, I could sympathize, but for people from Earth, it seemed that the lower gravity was to blame for making many people lightheaded. Aside from issues of pride, many could live on the collected scraps left over from the geniuses and prodigies of Newton City who had amassed great fortunes. Some would say that it was the fault of this sense of security, perhaps. Compared to the people who came to the moon from Earth, within the groups of tourists were also those who came here with some great sense of purpose. They came to the moon to do something or another. It could be that they came to find a tranquil life they couldn't find back on Earth. Likewise, they might have come to find a thrilling life that couldn't be found back on Earth. After all, I understood that one must step forward when one had a purpose at hand. Anyway, the cost to take the orbital elevator by any legal means was staggering, and there were many hurdles to clear if you were to look for any discounts or exemptions. In any case, there were many Earth dogs who knew where they came from, where they were, and what they should be doing. Literally, there was earth on the bottom of their shoes. That was why I hated these Earth dogs. I tied my shoes and left through the hallway. The place was eerily quiet. Lisa had headed out to the restaurant after eating breakfast. I knew that Hagana was still here, but outside of going to the toilet, she would seclude herself in her room, and you could even hear a peep coming out of there. I had no idea what she was doing in there, but I got eerie vibes. That was why I had everything I owned in my backpack. I wouldn't be surprised if Hagana took a hammer to my PC and destroyed it while I was out. I did not continue walking down the corridor towards the living room. Instead, I went up the stairs to the second floor. was in a low-income area. Much like everything else around, it was built upon parts of a crater that had been partially zoned, so navigating the sector was a bit complex. The entrance to the sector was along a relatively wide street, with second and third floor portions seemed to be linked to the cliffs as they stretched upward. According to Lisa, these places weren't very well off financially. The faded parts of buildings here and there around the church were obvious, but they appeared neither small nor inexpensive. Ascending the narrow steps took you to two rooms that looked out on a small yard from which you could see the Sky Park. As they were both on a slant, the rooms themselves were small. One of them was apparently Lisa's. There was a white painted chair and table in the small garden. And if you were to ascend the stairs another level, they became more like a ladder. The function as a handrail is actually what Lisa used to carry a basket of laundry. There was a room, or rather, a storage shed on the third floor, and past that you could reach a sight near the roof. The door was wooden, but there was a note on it with a handwritten note from Lisa that said to always lock the door when leaving. I was sure people had been locked out many times. I, of course, would be returning through the front entrance, and with that, I headed out. The moon was in the middle of the 2-week-long afternoon, and the light that permeated the dome over this lunar city during this time felt rather good. Today I could see Earth from the usual place. This yard had something of an extravagant feel to it, with a large tree growing very close to a cliff behind it. I wondered if the placement of the table and chair were so Lisa and Hagana could enjoy the shade of the tree. The cliffs all around gave the place a feeling of isolation. It was a nice place. Right now there was only the noise of the laundry machine, and it was clear what belonged to whom. Looking over the jumble of streets of the 6th outer section, you could see someone on the roof casually reading something on a computer terminal and someone repairing a roof. You could see bakeries and a dry cleaner, buildings spewing out water vapor from misshapen chimneys, and homes under construction. However, my objective wasn't to survey that area. It would be nice to scale the cliff in the back and roam around the plateau above, but I'd probably end up on someone's property and they'd call the cops on me. I moved nimbly between the houses seen from the park, and having found the continuation of the path towards the top of the plateau, broke into a run as I left the park. What was before me is what I had seen from the park. Before me were the buildings of Newton City that pointed in the direction of Earth. I left the 6th other section's business district and got on board the rather boringly named Lunar Development Train. It literally was a train from the time the lunar surface was being developed. At the station's starting point and terminus, there was a diorama of an individual in a spacesuit doing work in the lunar desert. No matter how much you could visit it virtually on the net, tourists still flocked to the diorama as if showing some deference of gratitude as they took pictures of it. Once, someone had the bright idea of making an incision in it to accommodate a box, so tourists would mistake it for a donation box. Supposedly, it was filled to the brim with coins. However, what the guy failed to realize was that only after a few hours, the foolish tourists would have filled the box with donations. Then they would complain to the station attendant that they couldn't put any more in. Thus, the plan was foiled. After that, capitalizing on the idiot's bright idea, the station attendants installed a large unmarked box to collect small change from tourists. This was a classic example of a moment of carelessness toppling even a good get-rich scheme. There wasn't a lot of living space on the moon, so the lunar development train almost seemed to apologize as it shrank down and sped through the city. The train passed alongside the chaotic mishmash of buildings, and for a brief moment it was possible to look out the window to see into the lives of the people inside. The tourists took great amusement seeing their own country's culturally styled buildings and lifestyles. Of course, there were no cultural aspects I particularly saw that amused me at all. The moon was made up of a hodgepodge of immigrants. On top of that, it was a place where people who couldn't shake off Earth's gravity gathered, so the coloring was way too pale. That was why one could say that the line performed very well. Even those from my hometown who hoped to accomplish something would resolutely look coldly at all of this. This was the moon, after all, not Earth. As we passed each station, the townscape changed accordingly. From a chaotic atmosphere to orderly streets, the stateless nature of the place became more evident. Buildings both straight and with elegant curves that did not exist in the natural world multiplied as perfectly trimmed trees grew in number. We had entered the White Belt. There were many advertisements within the train directed at the typical salarymen with information on insurance for families. Again, the ground gradually lowered and the train slowly separated from it. The beautiful cityscape unfolded below, and soon we were traveling at a height equal to that of a 10-story building. No matter how beautiful a building was, there would still be provisions for the many complexities in life as one would expect. Everywhere you looked, the green of parks could be seen, and one could look down to see large canals. In contrast, far in the distance, one could see the chaotic town of Red Valley. I was impressed that they would dare come up with names like White Belt and Red Valley. As I thought about that, the train suddenly picked up a burst of speed. Along the streets below, all that could be seen were residential and commercial buildings, like a district of cold buildings. Now that we reached a height of 20 stories, we stopped being able to see the tops of buildings passing by. Beyond the glass windows, one could see the busy salarymen as electronic billboards started to flood the view. So real quick, if you're not actually familiar with the height of a story, that is supposed to be 10 feet in US measurement. If you are using European measurement, that would be approximately 3 meters. And it's almost exactly 3 meters. Huh. So, 200 feet here, or that would be 60 meters, I believe. So you can tell they're pretty high up there. Definitely not something you should be able to survive a fall from normally, but on the moon you only have like a sixth of your weight. Before long, as if the train went right into a thick forest, we were covered in shadows, and vision was reduced greatly for a moment. The train continued to navigate through groups of nearby buildings by going around them. Then suddenly, my vision cleared up again. This was the large plaza before the Newton City Central Station. The vastness of the gigantic atrium would amaze not only travelers from Earth, but even those raised on the moon. At 162 meters above ground, nanowires held up a massive clock and a hologram screen right in midair. The train continued along the side of the large plaza and was eventually swallowed up within the terminal station. It, like Lunar City, can be considered a gathering of the highest levels of wealth and honor for mankind. I got off the train and counted the number of advertisements that came into view. There were 3 from nanotech companies, 4 from major software corporations, 2 from biotech firms, 2 from insurance companies, and 6 from banks. Of course, the banks have to have the most. And then there were 5 from investment banks. Each and every one of them was famous for their rate of earnings and prideful of their proceeds, and they had the task of sweeping up all the proceeds from the wealth on Earth and pumping it into this lunar city. Listing the world's companies in order of market cap within the top 100 companies, 37 of them were on the moon. It's more than one would find in London or New York. The number of companies spanning Earth that set up their main offices here were great, and the number that wanted to strike it big was even greater. New frontiers gathered up at the brightest of folks. In this era, as long as you had a talented mind and a net connection, you could come out on top. The moon was different from Earth, where everything the eye could see had been developed owing to a long history, and old geezers wielded immense power saying hi upon the thrones. Some random country couldn't monopolize power here, and because of the nuclear crisis, countries everywhere shied away from the bomb. Thus the moon was literally an empty place with no external annoyances. Even placing second or third in a race to come here would still be more than enough for someone to become a key figure in the city. Though their footprints were no longer displayed along with the others in the Sea of Tranquility Memorial Hall, without a doubt they stood on the forefront of humanity. For example, there was a bronze bust in front of the central entrance of Central City. That's a little awkward wording. I think they might mean, like, main entrance of Central City. Generally, you do not want to repeat words in a sentence unless it's for emphasis. The model of this overly serious-faced statue that seems to look down at the pedestrians was E.J. Roachberg, whom people said simply ended up as an excellent banker had he stayed on Earth. Right now, he was the top CEO of a top-class investment bank here on the moon. At nearly 29, he got involved in investing in the lunar development trade. In those days, he worked vigorously in lunar development, which few people regarded with much interest, as he gambled upon mankind's career and everything he had. That got the ball rolling. On Earth, stories were told about how he built the city from nothing, although many key figures would say that very few people understood what that really meant. It's just that they rode the wave well, they said. I supported those sentiments, even though everyone knew that how they all approached it was less than ideal. Anyways, even though my parents came to the moon at the same time that E.J. Roachberg did, it was evident to note a difference in income levels. They worked at leveling the rock to put in soil for the growing and harvesting of crops. Was that not a job from trillions of years before? And on that note, it would have been easier just to have done that back on Earth. Now was why I made sure to remind myself of this sometimes by coming all the way out to Newton City by train. Particularly, it was a place that with those little trading, where education was sometimes finding a big break in the city. If you left the station and headed in the opposite direction of the plaza, right before your eyes was the path on the right-hand side of the tower building of the lunar government. Among the many glass-filled buildings in Newton City, many of them were built using material cut from dark rock. Because of that, it looked plain at first glance. In my opinion, this is something that gives off an intimidating air, like something with an unusually powerful gravitational pull. That was the financial district, where banks and investment banks set up shop. Pointing to the street was a simple sign that said Schroeder Street. And there next to it was the bronze statue of a small cat. Can't actually read this, unfortunately. The cat had a sly expression in its eyes as it lay sprawled with one foot out on a single gold plate. Engraved on the gold plate was this: "You can't know the outcome until you open the box." I thought this was most appropriate for the financial district. Although I had succumbed to religious waves around the moon, I saw nothing wrong with petting the cat for good luck. I pet the cat on its head and ran my finger along the outline of the gold plate. You can't know the outcome until you open the box. I came here for the sake of telling myself these words. There are many people who went from being mere errand runners to becoming masters of the giant buildings that line the streets. I literally came to recharge my spirits here. Schroeder Street on the weekend was pretty much filled with tourists like me. There were only a few taxis running around, not to mention the total lack of black luxury cars. You could see busy-looking people in suits, but the security guards in front of the 5-meter front entrances to the buildings were yawning out of boredom. There was a hot dog stand along the road. It was so famous that people ranged from hotshot bankers and traders making $1 million a month to the $6 an hour mailmen would all congregate and eat there. I heard it was great being able to eat your dog 10 seconds after ordering, then eat it with one hand. People who go to burger joints to eat a meal were considered second-rate. People who would go buy box lunches were just laughingstocks. Thus, being caught up in the flow of walking along this street, I bought a hot dog. Working on a day off? I noticed that something along those lines and placed a flattened sausage in the bun. I didn't even think about replying along the lines of, "Don't treat me like a fool, I at least have a stable income." Are you supposed to be mean saying that? Being treated as one of the regulars here filled me with joy. To me, making money was a means and not an end. However, after thinking long and hard about it, the fastest way to get rich had to be here. When I had come to that decision, I felt a great reverence for the people at the head of the pack here. And with that, I realized that I actually did have a bit of fanboyism in me. So I thanked the guy, paid my respects to the people passing by, and walked off fidgety, more fidgety than usual. The main offices are E.J. Rochberg. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce this name. Rochberg, with top-tier investment banks like Hallard Brothers and Platina Smith not far behind, established their massive buildings here. In order to make the most efficient use of space, Newton City was divided into 3 levels. There were the underground level, the above-ground level, and the sky level. I was currently in the sky level, and the main entrances for all the buildings were here. Below this were related companies who rented out office space. The underground and above-level portions of the buildings on Schroeder Street were filled with countless funds and consulting agencies. While walking around eating my hot dog, I would occasionally come across narrow and compact buildings with gilded signs and atriums adorned with chandeliers and paintings. These weren't places where money exchanged hands, rather places where those with enormous sums of money obtained official legal guarantees. Top-class law firms, accounting firms, and government outlets resided here. After walking a bit more, I arrived at an intersection. In front of me was a strangely shaped edifice that reminded me of the Colosseum in Rome. The entrance was dozens of floors above the pavement, and the stairs leading up to it formed its own plaza. It was such a special place that it was allowed to use up this much space. Occupying the intersection between Schroeder Street and Bit Street, which was made up of software and media companies, the Lunar Stock Exchange could be called this city's source of wealth. It was a place where stocks from companies all over the world, not just from the moon, were traded. It was the pride of the world. Combined with various future markets, trillions of rules can exchange hands every day. There were a lot of tourists and a lot of people crowded around the standard bronze statue at the entrance, taking pictures. You could say this was the pinnacle of capitalism and humanity's expansion. The entrance is wedged between giant screens displaying market information 24 hours a day. Currently airing was a discussion between the vice manager of the Lunar Central Bank and the famous CEO, Latina Smith, on the relaxation of regulations. Both of them were in their mid-40s and could be considered quite young by Earth standards. On the moon, someone in their mid-40s would be considered elderly, although these two are still full of confidence and energy. I leaned against the giant steps of the stock exchange and ate the rest of my hot dog slowly. Everything here was big, vast, and solid. Being a little bread knife worth a scrap of tissue, buying a hot dog was the most I could do here. However, I'll use the one computer in my bag to make money, and eventually become one of the major players here. That wasn't much more than the first step in achieving my dream, but attaching specific milestones to my goal made me think of how brash it was. However, there were many people who managed to pull it off in the past. Thus, there should be any reason I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to understand without looking with eyes wide open. The CEO of Latina Smith, who was talking on the screen, had a yearly salary of 37 million rubles, being the highest amongst all the major enterprises here in Schroeder Street. Normal people would be quite satisfied making 2 million rubles over their lifetime, so no one would disagree that this yearly salary was monstrous. However, there were also many people who made at least 1 billion rubles a year working in these offices. These were hotshots whose salaries definitely had teeth in them, and they made tons of money using their expertise and behaved almost like lone wolves. These were the people I looked up to in adoration, since I had neither a real educational background nor a financial background. My ambitions had still not been fulfilled, so I could only watch them from here. But eventually, I would stand shoulder to shoulder with them as either rivals or comrades, instead of looking at them from a distance. They were unmistakably billionaires, holding onto the majority of the wealth in this world. Money. Just money. The object of my unbearable desires circulated here like a whirlpool. I squashed the hot dog wrapper and stood up impatiently. Time to head back and look for more money-giving trees. And eventually I would become someone who'd be acknowledged here. And then after that... On the train, I fixed my hold on my bag while staring at the giant panoply of Newton City's receding buildings. As expected, visiting Newton City would plunge my reserves after they had been worn down by a week of trading. Paid no heed to the temptations of consumerism on the bustling streets, I headed straight back to the church. The scene had changed so much that it appeared as if I was no longer on the same blue surface, even now. I started seeing more and more buildings on the edge of collapsing. There were people drinking fishing lines in canals, and people growing their own food in composts. There were people selling steamed buns, people resurfacing knives, even people repairing shoes on contract. It was a place filled with bustling life, far removed from the realm of high profits. Clicking my tongue at no one in particular, I jumped past throngs of buildings while making my way back. Looking yelled at by an old fellow, I jumped off the rooftop of a 4-story building and flew into the air. I could see the Lunar Chinese restaurant off in the distance. Looking around, I could also see the dirty building lined street the big old cafe was on, as well as my favorite tunnel that opened out into the hill. However, it wasn't possible to stay in the air forever. Thus, I descended gradually with the gravity 1/6 that of Earth's tugging at me. I absorbed my inertia by bending my knees, then flew up for one last time to cover more ground. It's not like I could do this outside of paths with few people passing by in any circumstances. I couldn't pursue my police on grounds for dangerous behavior. However, the speed sensation was simply unbearably awesome. It was totally suited for me, and had just been rejuvenated by New York City. Well, it's time to get cranky and look for stocks that would bring me the money. The moment I opened that door and walked in. No, stop! A shrill voice resounded in the air. For a second, I wondered if I had waltzed into the wrong church, but it didn't seem to be the case. I could still hear the voice. No, stop it! Stop it! It sounded like it was coming from the halls of the main building. My mind spun in circles for a few seconds, then cleared up immediately. A burglar? And the voice was Hagana? Even though she was a damn cheeky and arrogant woman, she was still a woman. I jumped off the back of a few... Oh, God, I can't read today. I jumped off the back of a row of pews, flew over them, and dashed down the hall. I heard a shriek and the sound of something getting flipped over. I opened the half-closed door that led to the living room and threw off my backpack and made a tight fist. By now, my head was swimming in adrenaline and my body was fully primed for battle. I thought in my head was advice I had heard from a guerrilla fighter from the Caucasus region, who had said that yelling when jumping into a situation had a negative effect. That's true. Rushing in grab people's attention easily. However, if you can drop down right away, you disappear from their sight and approach your target swiftly. Then, once you were within range, you could get up in one go and apply overwhelming force. If your opponent was armed with a gun, just jump off to the side. He wouldn't be able to hit you. If you wielded a blade, just go straight for him. It's not as scary as you'd think. Now, if he's unarmed, just do it over. I aimed at the dude who just trashed the room and took a swing at him with my fist. I planted my feet with all my strength to increasing the friction. Yeah, they messed up here. I planted my feet with all my strength to increase the friction, increasing my effective mass and thus the power of my punch. As long as your mass was low, the power of your attack can only be what Newton's third law gave you. My punch made a clean hit on my opponent, who had just turned towards me in surprise. With a nice-sounding smack, the punch went through unhindered. That seemed to be enough. I got pulled along by the inertia of my punch, and by the time I stopped spinning on my good foot, my opponent spun around awkwardly and collapsed right there. He wasn't passed out, though he might have gotten a concussion. His eyes were zoned down in his hands, which looked like they were trying to grab onto something trembling and stiff. Preparing myself to kick him into the air at a moment's notice, I called out Hagana without averting my gaze one bit. You okay? In the corner of my eyes, I could sort of make out a figure clad entirely in black. It was Hagana. She was staying motionless in silence, stuck against the wall. No audible reply came back. However, she was silent not because of the usual arrogance factor, because she was simply unable to speak. The man grabbed onto the fallen sofa with one hand and tried to prop himself back up somewhat, and I grabbed that hand and twisted it upwards. I I squeezed the bony part of his wrist and twisted upwards and outwards. His body fell over easily, and the extreme pain made the intruder's thoughts quite clear. Hey, what are you? Most of my words had to rotate his arm behind his back, putting me in a position to let me apply additional pressure at any time. This guy was a middle-aged man about the same height as me, and he had a grimy appearance with his frizzy hair that was mostly thinned out. He looked like quite a crafty guy. I looked past the man at Ghana. It didn't look like he had assaulted her or anything. The only thing I could see was that the corners of her damn cheeky eyes had gotten red and that her hands were trembling with. If you don't answer properly, I'll kill you. Even if you remain silent, I'll kill you. I knew many deserted lots, and I also knew ruffians who came from war torn regions on Earth. In a place where there was a possibility of maybe just one murder a year, my threat probably sounded like a child's bluff. However, that appraisal depended on the circumstances. The man I'd subdued pretty much instantly let out a hoarse shriek. I twisted his arm lightly and asked him again, "What are you, burglar? Did you know? It's okay to punish a burglar by killing him." This time his shriek was quite clear. "Wait, please, don't kill me." That'll depend on the circumstances. What's with the mess in this room? Enlighten me. I twisted his arm some more, and he let out a squeal. I knew that I managed to make the gun cower in fear. She was surprisingly feminine and totally out of it. "It's a misunderstanding, I'm not a burglar, no way." So then what are you? I'd hardly expect some neighbor to come over for tea and then get angry enough to flip over a sofa, send a table flying with a kick, and rip out the carpet. It really did look that way, like a building marked for demolition. Furthermore, I myself heard Hagana shouting for him to stop, and also her hand was trembling. But it wasn't my fault. It's her fault. Oh yeah? Well, aren't you the self-righteous burglar? Like I said, I'm not a burglar. It's true, I'm a debt collector. Debt collector? That's right. I came to collect some owed money. It's just my job. I didn't think he was lying, but I decided to look over at Hagana anyway. After Hagana stared at the suffering man, she noticed my gaze and turned towards me in surprise. "Is that the case?" When asked, she paused for a second and then nodded. I clicked my tongue and let the man go. The man crawled along the floor to run away, then turned around. "What the? It's just a brat." "If you think I'm a brat, want to go for round 2? Training in my body had been really convenient for a lot of things. The debt collector shook his head violently and looked up at me through servile eyes. "So a debt collector's one of those types, eh? They even have the right to do all this." "Well, I figured. So what are we going to do?" "Huh?" I said what we should do. Should we call the cops, or are we really going to do some debt collecting? The debt collector clearly gulped. However, afterwards he lowered his gaze. "At most, I'd be lectured all night in detention. Besides, if you call the cops, I'll just read them this loan statement. I don't really want to, since it costs me some fees, but I could totally just go get the courts to foreclose on you." "Well, aren't we a spunky one?" I moved my knee up to scoot over to him, but he suddenly pulled back, so I was unable to force him down anymore. And with that, I remembered one thing from my training. If your opponent stopped yielding, go for negotiations. Well, you're here for the interest and fees, right? Yeah, so you understand, right? In this world, you can't just borrow money and refuse to show even the smallest signs of paying it back. Besides, I got totally treated like trash. The debt collector glanced over at Hagana. Following his lead, I also looked over. She was cowering against the wall like a pinned butterfly. When the money was lent out, it was all humility and everything, you know? Well, I guess it was Lisa who was lowering her head. Well, I can kind of see that. You see, right? What do I do with being called a dung mule or space trash? Looking at Hagana past the grumbling debt collector, I could see her looking downwards and staring at us with sullen, childish eyes. Besides, it's not like I'm asking for the entire principal back. I know that it's impossible anyway. But this is also a business, so I'd like for the interest to be paid back at least. And as he said that, "There's no money here for you," Hagana yelled out. The debt collector shrugged and turned towards me with a "See, I told you" written on his face. reaction, but saying too little might end with losing money. I could see this guy tackling this question in his mind for a moment until he finally came up with an answer. 200 moles. I remembered how Lisa reacted when I gave her 200 moles, so this wasn't done. So, that's this month's interest, or this year's interest. This month's. Since my top blew over and I did a bunch of things, this is lower than usual. It's actually 6% annual interest on a 50,000 mole principal. Compound interest is kind of annoying, so I just set it at 250 moles a month. Since I totally thought this was some shady loan deal, I was surprised at the relatively low interest rate here. To hide my surprise, I ordered him coldly. Show me the loan agreement. What? At first, the debt collector was speechless, but eventually he reluctantly showed it to me. Those numbers he quoted were certainly written down here. I sighed again and stuck my hand into my pocket. Here. I had run out of 100 mole bills, so I carefully counted out 200 moles worth of bills and handed it to him. He reached out carefully as if I would smack him the moment he laid hands on the money. After receiving the money, he hunched over the money and counted furtively. It's good. Alright. Well then, I'll be up. You wait up. I swept his leg quickly with my front leg, causing him to fall over. Then I got up, walked over to him, put my knee in his face, and squatted down. You've got some nerve not giving me a receipt. Aren't you a student? Talk about money doesn't bother me. You tell me. After I said that, the debt collector resigned himself, cut me a receipt, and returned dejectedly. I leaned against the magnificent door of this church, in which hung a crucified man, and saw off the man's faint silhouette before looking back at the receipt in my hand. 200 moles of interest was probably a large amount of money in these parts. If I wanted to earn 200 moles with the job Lisa offered to refer me to, it would take 4 to 5 days worth of income to come up with that amount. Furthermore, in that period of time, there would be food expenses and rent, along with other consumables than such that must be paid. In other words, low income meant you couldn't save up money. If you couldn't save up money, you couldn't invest. And if you couldn't invest, you'd be forced to make money by selling your time forever. A shovel could not fill a giant hole. You could only fill a giant hole by pushing a snowball down a hill until it snowballed into enormous proportions. I actually hadn't seen snow before, but I had heard advice before about investments and really liked this particular analogy involving snowballs. Simply put, that's why these 200 moles weren't just 200 moles to me. It's something that could become 10,000 moles or even 1,000,000 moles in the future. When Lisa returns, I'd have to get my money back. At least I saw her putting 200 moles in the cupboard. I wasn't just going to let her say she didn't have it. While pondering that, I crossed the prayer hall and returned to the living room. Hagana was putting the furniture back in place. She was emotionless, but somehow I got the feeling that she was angry. It was probably the rough way she was handling the overturned table and kicked up carpet. I prefer not to refer to her by something that would give off an aura of pettiness such as girl. However, Hagana unmistakably possessed the delicate XX chromosome, so she was as weak in body as she was strong in spirit. It would be a different story if you had just arrived from Earth, but for people who have lived on the moon for a long time and gotten accustomed to the low gravity, they'd only be able to deliver a proportionately low amount of force as well. She was trying to put the big sofa back in its place, but it wasn't going too well. She must have noticed me stay in the doorway, but she hadn't asked for any help. She looked like she was just short of telling me that she wouldn't ask for help from the likes of me. I thought she was a cheeky girl, so there was no obligation for me to help. Besides, she hadn't even thanked me yet. I walked past the door and was about to go back to my room. I heard a voice just as I was passing by Hagana. Why won't you help? She couldn't move the sofa back in place because she couldn't lift it all the way up and a leg was stuck. She tried picking it up from different angles, but none of those attempts worked. Even though she was panting lightly, her eyes were fixated on the task with the weight of a dumbbell. Furthermore, it looked like her princess hubris was in full force. I sighed heavily in reply to her. Why do I need to help if I haven't been asked? Sure enough, Hagana lowered her head. With her slender chin and slender neck, her lowering her head made her a textbook example of a delicate girl. My eyebrows wrinkled as I wondered if she was really putting on a show, but she answered me with the following. If I asked, would you help? I could feel my face twitching, but if I got mad now, I'd hate myself for acting like a baby. Hence, I prepared myself and answered. Yeah? Help me out. I looked back at Hagana in surprise. She was staring back at me with pure black eyes. Are you deaf? She continued with a 1-2 combo, just like a relentless princess with a whip. If they push, retreat. When they retreat, push. Hagana's great at arguments. While feeling hurt, I really had to help her now that I said I would. Alright, I get it. Shit. What was that last one? She asked me to repeat what I said, and I clicked my tongue angrily. Hearing that, Hagana looked condescendingly at me, wondering what was with this baby. I felt that it was not my best interest to let Hagana into my views, so I averted my eyes, put my hands on the fallen sofa, and lifted it up without bending my knees. Lifting it above her body height was a little bit of rebellion on my part. Keeping it in that position, I asked her, "Oh, how would you like this place, milady?" I asked her, injecting ample amounts of disdain into my tone. However, Hagana didn't show any sign of caring. She looked over at the carpet immediately and pondered. It seemed that my disdain raised not an inch of ire from her. She really got on my nerves. The rear leg should line up with this spot, the sofa should face perpendicular to this way. After being instructed briefly, I lowered the sofa as she had instructed since I didn't feel like nitpicking. It's a bit crooked. Being told that, I gritted my molars, took a deep breath, and was somehow able to suppress my anger. Is it okay now? Satisfied? Yeah, looks that way. Hagana nodded and turned around immediately to start collecting the various little items scattered on the floor. No words of appreciation came my way. I wasn't expecting any to begin with, but I ended up feeling anger similar to disappointment. In the village where I grew up, if you did something for someone, they'd thank you for it. If someone did something for you, you returned the favor, of course. The culture over there, which I considered simple, crude, and outdated, had somehow rooted itself strongly in me. I scratched my head while trying to contemplate all the differences between Hagana and me. I got into a bad mood again when I seen the wonderful recitation I enjoyed from Schroeder Street. Maybe I should go stroll through Red Valley sometime. On top of that, if I associated with Hagana anymore, there'd be a possibility I might end up laying hands on her. Of course, I mean in the sexual sense, but in the physical, violent sense. I was about to leave the living room and walk into the hallway leading to the inner rooms, and thus when I heard a voice call out to me, I totally thought it was a hallucination. There aren't enough flowers. When I turned around, I saw Hagana putting her face on the table and arranging the flowers. The stark contrast between the white lily-like flowers and the pitch-black Hagana in juxtaposition was remarkable. However, next to were some poor flowers flattened by someone stepping on them. I guess that's what she meant. So what? Get some for me. I was pretty much silent as I walked reflexively towards Hagana. If the following words hadn't popped out of her mouth, I probably would have walked right up to her and turned that graceful face of hers into tomato paste. Please. My feet stopped instantly, and I ended up staring steadily at Hagana. She returned my stare in the same manner and said, "I asked you to help." So I should go do it as soon as possible, huh? I couldn't figure out what to say or how to say it. I had confidence in my thought processes, but when interacting with these women, I got a strong message that my head wasn't quite screwed on right. I'd given my word Hagana had, at least in appearance, asked me to do something. Having gotten nothing, I knew thanks in return, I replied bitterly. What kind of flower is it? Staring at me with emotionless eyes, as though saying that it's obvious what flowers she was looking for, Hagana pointed her slender finger at the vase. I don't know where these grow. Me neither. Thinking, what? I furrowed my eyebrows and was about to jab Hagana in the chin, but Hagana's expression remained unchanged. But aren't you as nimble as a monkey? It should be more logical for you to search than me. But why did I have to follow her orders and even allow myself to be called a monkey? I wanted to yell at her, but Hagana paid no attention to me, spun her head around and looked at the vase again. You said grew these flowers. It would be a problem if there were less than 7. At that moment, my anger evaporated instantly. Her profile looked so pitiful. However, I quickly corrected my thinking and told myself it's just a show mimicking people with a double X chromosome. As long as you were born a pretty woman, no matter how rotten you were inside, you looked like a beauty standing next to some flowers. Well, as long as it was a real problem, I could just go and get some. Even though my reputations were unrelenting, I ended up running off dejectedly to find some flowers. Of course, searching around blindly would be something an idiotic Earth dog would do. I took my computer out of my backpack, booted it up, and took a picture of the flower with its camera. I then used an image search on the net and determined what type of flower it was. Furthermore, since doing something bizarre like growing stuff like flowers on the moon could only be due to curiosity, I entered the flower's name and the name of the area around here. Having done that, I found a picture uploaded by some bored and/or curious person of the flower nearby, and hooray! I located the whereabouts of this flower. Oddly, this post that came up also had something to do with the church. Oh, look. Isn't this just the cliff above us? A flower aficionado who lived nearby had written a post proudly proclaiming that he had taught Lisa how to grow flowers. This was surely the garden on the cliff that I had seen when I left this place earlier today. And I certainly had the feeling I saw a peak of blooming flowers, too. I turned towards the Ghana who was busy with a cleanup and occasionally snuck glances at me, and rotated the display towards her. I guess they're blooming on the cliff above us. I see. I need 2 flowers. Don't mess up. It didn't seem like she had even an ounce of inclination to retrieve the flowers herself. Having lost the will to get angry, I closed the computer and got up from the floor. I hopped up to the 2nd floor and then onwards to the 3rd floor. I stuck something in the annoying auto-locking door to keep it open and went outside. From the lights on the door, I could tell it was almost time for evening mode to kick in. The earth appeared in its usual location and showed me its faint blue figure. I scanned the garden, which had a great view and looked like it would be quite a nice place in which to hang out. After looking around, I found the lilies growing in a flower bed, just like in the photo. When I approached it, 5 flowers fluttered in the light breeze. Since they were so fresh, young, and full of life, I paused, wondering if I should really uproot them. Although I could not see any traces of 7 flowers having been uprooted before, there was no mistake the flowers Lisa had originally picked were originally picked from here. I pulled up 2, shook the dirt off them, then carried them back down. When I got back, the living room had returned to normal, and Agata was sitting at the table. She looked at the 2 lilies in my hands and frowned. What? You said 2, didn't you? The roots are still attached. I took a deep breath and responded slowly. Well, you didn't say you didn't want the roots. I thought she'd just ignore that, but she stared at me for a bit and nodded in agreement. Disappointed, I handed the 2 lilies to Agata. Agata then grabbed a pair of scissors from the cupboard and started cutting up the flowers in the sink. Her firm movements gave the impression that she was quite experienced at this. Unfortunately, it was in appearance only. She was cutting them straight across the stem. You don't know how? I asked her quickly. How to what? Here, let me see. Why? She furrowed her brows in surprise, but as I approached her and stretched out my hand, she handed me the scissors and the flowers. For this situation, you should cut it diagonal to the stem. It basically lets the stems absorb water a lot more easily. Well, it didn't apply to everything, but it was a basic rule of thumb as I learned at home. I cut the 2 stems at an angle, and Agata, who had been staring at my hands, looked up at me. Is that true? I said that with a shrug. Agata showed a bit of her emotion in response to my vague response. A slight wrinkle appeared on her forehead, and she lowered her chin. Well, I figured that Agata wasn't good with these types of things. Perhaps his reaction to being stepped on all the time, I started flaunting my knowledge. So I take it you don't know that you're not supposed to store vegetables lying on their side. Vegetables? Their freshness will depend on whether you lay them on their side or stand them up. Agata had a slightly startled face as if she were saying that that's impossible as she stared at me. She then brought her lips back together quickly. Oh, hey. Looked like she was kind of angry. My heart sank for joy. Looked like she thought I was making fun of her. That's a lie, right? Why don't you test it out? I immediately returned with a retort. My dad once said that just as humans would weaken if put in a different environment, vegetables would also weaken if placed in a different orientation from when they were growing. And therefore, there's a difference on how well they're kept. It looked like she was just glaring at me, but eventually she turned around, looked at the flowers, while speaking in a quiet manner. I'll keep that in mind. I thought exhibiting oddly good behavior, but then the second line came out. Since I'll verify it someday. While still thinking cute couldn't really describe this woman, I didn't feel that this was the first time we were able to have a real conversation. I did feel this would be the first time. This was the first time we'd be able to have a real conversation. I got her to retrieve the flowers from me without a word, and still without a word, placed them in the vase. That behavior made me sense a little bit of humanity from her, and wonder if I didn't have to have such a prejudiced view. If anything, if the flower lover Lisa had raised these flowers, she'd be distraught if she came back to find some flowers missing. I got his consideration for Lisa and wanted to replenish the number of flowers. I'd have to say that it was girly. I thought that would be really nice if some of that humanity could be directed at me, but of course I couldn't say that aloud. Actually, I felt defeated at the point when I thought of that and chased those thoughts out of my head. I ended up pulling myself up in the room I was renting and spent the time researching for money spinners. I don't know why I can't do this today. I felt kind of depressed, but rather than wasting time and money roaming Red Valley aimlessly, I figured I might as well actually spend some time doing things related to making some bucks. Even the ever-changing world economy news headlines were full of things that could determine the movements of the markets tomorrow. If my rivals throughout the world were going to read these articles to plan for tomorrow's trades, then ignoring the news would give me a handicap for the battle ahead. To win the battle, I must do everything possible. Driven by something like obsession, I poured through the news stories, but there were limits to my concentration and patience. I could concentrate on actual trade for hours on end, but I'd gradually lose focus while doing this sort of manual labor that was akin to warm-up exercises. However, I managed to look through everything. By that time, I started feeling a dull pain in the back of my eyes, and the light outside my window indicated it was evening already. Amongst the investors of the world, anecdotes abounded that people who started investing when they were 5 years old and never missed a day reading the top 10. When they were 5 years old and never missed a day reading the top 10 economic newspapers for decades. Suddenly, I asked myself whether I'd been spending my days in such a way that I'd be able to fight with them on even footing. Right now, results had accompanied my trading, and my seed money had grown. Recently, however, some days of neither gains nor losses like yesterday had risen. If I broke even during actual trade, then I'd incur losses from the trading fees. Furthermore, my necessary living expenses had added to those losses. It would be a lie to say that I wasn't uneasy. I was well aware that if there were days where I incurred losses or did not perform that well, then I'd be inclined to needlessly feel depressed about it, especially on the evening of the day when markets are closed at the end of a week. For those kids who actually went to school, they'd have club activities or play around for the day. The advent of a new week, just like the previous, brought a sense of stability. However, I had no such luxury since each new week would be an unpredictable week full of surprises. Back when I was in the village, I had dreamed of stimulating days like this every day, but the days when I held the opposite opinion had started to increase recently. This line of thought wasn't good, I felt. Feeling depressed brought nothing good. Going back to the village and attending school again was definitely impossible. Therefore, I needed to look forward and spend time constructively. I got up from the bed, and with my light headache spreading a frown across my face, I opened the computer again. Being able to do something about the tug-of-war being played on my funds would at least make me feel more relieved. With that in the back of my mind, I received one of the 3 scheduled emails of the day from a securities company. It was a mailing list service that sent information about shitty investment trusts and shady investment opportunities, but occasionally interesting info came out of it, so I decided to peruse it. As always, while I was staring at the table of contents, my mouse cursor had already reached the trash bin. However, what caused my hand to twitch and click the touch mouse was not that the email was full of crap. The opposite, in fact. Amongst the meaningless junk, there stood out the rare something that had value. An invitation to an investment contest? I had heard of contests that invited people who excelled at stock trading, but was surprised that they had invited me. Furthermore, the grand prize was 200,000 mules. My current net worth stood at 70,000 mules, so if I won, I'd increase my funds threefold. However, What drew me in the most wasn't that. Within the invitation for this contest was the following set of catchlines. All eyes from Schroeder Street are on this contest. In addition to the prize money, the winner might have the possibility of getting scouted. The winner last time, Mr. Tony Rudy, was recruited into Platina Smith, and the winner of the first contest, Mr. Jan Suhu, ended up starting his own hedge fund. What lies in store for the winner this third time? It was a bunch of cheap words intended to draw attention, but having been attracted, I couldn't reject those words. The prize money was obviously important, but the possibility of being able to get my foot in the door of Schroeder Street, that single phrase totally blew me away. To work in such a firm the proper way, I'd have to study my butt off to get into a top-tier university and graduate with the top grades with a top-of-the-line major. Furthermore, I wouldn't just be competing with people from the moon, I'd also be competing with a selected few brilliant immigrants from Earth. Therefore, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. But even briefly looking through my current situation, I could see grim reality in the way. If I could repeat my fantastic dash that I managed to do right after leaving home, this prize could definitely be in my reach. However, right now, I felt like I was in a tunnel with no visible exit. I probably need some different type of methodology from what I've been using up until now. While pondering that, I copied out the contents of the email and saved it just in case.